There's a hammer in your garage right now, sitting in the toolbox, waiting in the dark. The hammer has a life you'll never know, an existence that happens when you're not looking, when you're asleep, when you're at work pretending to care about the quarterly report. The hammer is being a hammer in ways you can't imagine, in ways you'll never access. The hammer withdraws from you. Everything withdraws from you. The coffee cup on your desk, the chair holding your weight, the phone in your pocket vibrating with someone else's emergency. They're all hiding. Hiding like a room with no door, a depth with no ladder, an inside that has no outside. Graham Harman says objects aren't props in the human drama. They're not extras in your movie. They're not waiting around to be useful to you. They have their own realities, their own withdrawn cores that remain untouched no matter how hard you grip them, how hard you use them, and how much you think you understand them. You've spent your whole life assuming that the world is here for you, that meaning runs through human beings like electricity through copper wire, that consciousness is what makes things real. Harman would disagree. You are not the center, you are not the meaning maker, you are not even the protagonist. You are just another object. One object among billions, all of us hidden from each other, all of us locked inside our own withdrawn depths, and fundamentally alone. The hammer has secrets. The black hole collapsing at the edge of the universe has secrets. Your mother, your best friend, they have secrets too. Not the kind they're keeping from you, the kind they're keeping from themselves that they can't even access. You'll never truly know anyone, not because you're not trying hard enough, not because you're broken or they're broken or love isn't real, but because knowing isn't possible, not fully, not ever. We only touch surfaces. We only meet proxies. We dance with the translated versions while the real entities watch from somewhere we'll never see. This is object-oriented ontology. Philosophy that treats hammers and humans as equally real and equally withdrawn, and equally unknowable. It sounds like nihilism, it feels like loneliness, but I'm thinking that it is something else. The hammer dreams of nails, you dream of being understood, the universe dreams of nothing. And somehow in all that mutual withdrawal, in all that separateness and hiddenness and fundamental isolation, reality keeps happening. Objects keep touching, we keep reaching across the void. Welcome to the secret lives of objects. Welcome to the democracy of things, to a universe where you are not special. You're just here, like everything else, withdrawn and strange and forever beyond anyone's grasp, even your own. 835. Graham Harman has a word for what everything is doing to you right now. Withdrawal. Not the kind you get when you quit cigarettes or stop checking your ex's Instagram. The ontological kind. The kind that means every object in the universe is hiding its true nature from you, and hiding it so completely that no amount of analysis or intimacy or violence will ever drag it into the light. The hammer withdraws, the stone withdraws, the atom withdraws, your father withdraws, you withdraw from yourself. Harman took this idea from Heidegger, but he pushed it further. Heidegger said tools disappear into their usefulness. You don't think about the hammer when you're hammering, you think about the nail. The hammer becomes transparent, it vanishes into pure function, but when it breaks, when the handle snaps or the head flies off, suddenly you see it. The broken tool announces itself, forces you to notice it as a thing instead of a use. Harman says Heidegger didn't go far enough. The hammer isn't just hiding in usefulness. The hammer is always already elsewhere, always withdrawn, even when it's working perfectly, when you're gripping it, when you think you understand exactly what it is and what it does. You only ever access hammerness, the tool being of the hammer, the way it shows up for you in the context of your projects and purposes. But the hammer itself, the hammer in itself, the real hammer with all its depths and qualities and strange object reality, That stays locked away, hidden, withdrawn into a core you cannot touch. Every time you use the hammer, you are interacting with a translated version, a surface, a proxy. The hammer gives you just enough of itself to be useful and keeps the rest in reserve, in darkness, in a place you'll never go. This isn't mysticism and it isn't poetry. This is ontology. This is what it means for something to be real. Real things withdraw. They have depths that exceed any relation they enter. They're more than how they appear to you, more than their function, more than their surface. The coffee cup isn't just a container for coffee. When you drink from it, you access coffee cupness. But the cup itself withdraws. It has a reality that remains when you're not looking, when you're asleep. When the cup sits alone in the cabinet in the dark house in the middle of the night, the cup is being something you'll never know. Experiencing something, not consciousness, not thought, but something. Some kind of object existence that happens in the withdrawn depths where you can't follow. Now apply this to people. Your lover withdraws from you. Every time you touch them, every time you talk to them, when you think you're finally close, finally intimate, you are not. You are touching their surface. You are interacting with the version of them that shows up in relation to you. But the real them, the withdrawn them, the them in itself stays hidden. Now they can't help it. They can't choose to reveal themselves fully even if they want to, because withdrawal isn't something objects do, it's something objects are. It's the basic structure of reality. Everything that exists has a reality that exceeds any relation it enters into. The lover as they appear to you is not the same as the lover in themselves. The gap between those two things is unbridgeable, absolute, permanent. This is why relationships feel so close and so impossibly distant at the same time. You're lying in bed next to someone, skin touching skin, breath mixing with breath, and somehow you're completely alone. Somehow there's an infinite distance between you that all the intimacy in the world can't cross. Not because anyone is broken, but because both of you are objects. Both of you withdraw, and both of you have depths that remain sealed even from yourselves. You withdraw from yourself. The you that you experience, the you that shows up in your own awareness, that is not the real you. That is the you for yourself, the translated version, the surface you present even to your own consciousness. The real you, the you in itself, stays hidden. Locked away in depths you can't access no matter how much therapy you do or LSD you take. Every act of self-reflection is a relation, and in every relation the object withdraws. You can't get behind your own experience to see the you that's having the experience. You can't step outside of your own perspective to see yourself from nowhere. The observer cannot observe the observer observing. The subject cannot become its own object without creating a new subject that remains withdrawn. Your secrets aren't secrets you're keeping. They are secrets even you can't access. The things about yourself you'll never know. The depths that stay dark even when you're shining the light of consciousness directly at them. You are opaque to yourself, mysterious to yourself, a locked room pretending to be transparent. Harman's withdrawal is the loneliness built into the fabric of existence. Not loneliness as a feeling that you can fix with friendship or love or connection. Loneliness as an ontological fact, a structural feature of what it means to be a thing among things. We are all locked inside our own withdrawn depths, all of us reaching toward each other across gaps we can't close. All of us touching surfaces while the real entities stay hidden. The terror in this is obvious. You will never truly know anyone. You will never be truly known. Every relationship is a meeting of proxies. Every conversation is between ambassadors of hidden kingdoms. But there's relief in it too. If you withdraw, if your depths are sealed even from yourself, then maybe you're not as exposed as you thought. Maybe the shame you feel, the inadequacy, the sense that if people really knew you, they'd walk away, maybe that's based on a confusion. They'll never really know you. They can't really know you. Knowing is impossible. Not fully. Not ever. All they can know is your surface, the version of you that shows up in relation to them. And maybe that's enough. Maybe the withdrawn depths aren't meant to be touched. Maybe withdrawal isn't a problem to solve, but a fact to accept. The hammer dreams in the dark, you dream of being understood, and both dreams happen in withdrawn depths no one will ever see. Harman says something that sounds insane until you sit with it long enough for the insanity to become clarity. He says a dust mite and a black hole and Beethoven's Ninth Symphony all have equal ontological status. They're all objects, they all withdraw, they all have realities inaccessible to each other. This is flat ontology, the democracy of objects. No hierarchy, no special status for consciousness, no pedestal for human beings. We are not the center, we are not the measure, we are not the meaning maker standing outside reality pointing at things and naming them into existence. We are objects too, just objects, one object among billions. All of us equally real and all of us equally withdrawn. All of us stumbling around in the dark trying to touch each other, not like that, through surfaces that never quite connect. You don't want to believe this. Your whole life has been training you to believe the opposite. That human consciousness is special, that meaning runs through you like blood through veins, that the universe is fundamentally about subjects perceiving objects, minds encountering matter, consciousness illuminating an otherwise dead and meaningless world. Harman says that's human narcissism cosplaying as philosophy. We've spent centuries putting ourselves at the center, making everything else orbit around human experience, dividing reality into subjects who matter and objects who don't, into minds that are real and matter that's just stuff waiting to be used. Object-oriented ontology flattens that hierarchy, destroys it, says the coffee cup is as real as your consciousness of the coffee cup. The hammer is as real as your intention to hammer. The dust mite living in your pillowcase is as ontologically significant as your dream of becoming someone important. This isn't panpsychism. Harman isn't saying everything thinks. He's not giving consciousness to rocks and rivers and kitchen appliances. He's doing something more radical. He's saying consciousness isn't what makes things real. Being an object is what makes things real, and consciousness is just one possible quality some objects happen to have. You are not special because you're conscious. You're just an object with consciousness as one of your qualities. The same way that stone is an object with hardness as one of its qualities. Neither quality is more fundamentally real than the other. You and the stone are peers, equals, objects in a democracy where everything gets the same ontological vote. Sit with that. You're sitting in your apartment or your house right now. Maybe you're depressed. Maybe you're anxious. Maybe you're scrolling through your phone looking for evidence that you matter to someone. And you think you're alone with your thoughts, alone with your suffering, alone in the existential sense that matters. But you are not alone. You are in a parliament of objects. The couch beneath you is as real as your depression. The lamp in the corner is as substantive as your anxiety. The unwashed dishes in the sink, I know they're there, are as real as your shame about those unwashed dishes. Each one an object, each one withdrawn. Each one humming with its own existence in ways you will never comprehend. The chair doesn't care about your problems, not because it's indifferent and not because it's dead matter waiting for human meaning to animate it. The chair doesn't care about your problems because the chair is too busy being a chair. In ways that you will never access, in depths you'll never touch. The chair has its own withdrawn reality, its own object life. Its own way of being that has nothing to do with you. This should feel like nihilism. It should feel like the universe telling you that you don't matter, that your suffering is meaningless, that consciousness and interiority and all the things you thought made you special are just local phenomena with no cosmic significance. But maybe it's relief instead. Maybe the problem isn't that you don't matter enough. Maybe the problem is thinking you matter too much. Thinking your pain is the center of reality, that the universe should care about your broken heart or your career anxiety or your fear that you're wasting your one precious life. The universe doesn't care, not because it's cruel, but because caring is a local thing, a thing some objects do. The universe isn't an object that cares, it's a collection of objects all doing their own withdrawn thing, all existing in their own way and all mattering in their own object-specific sense without needing you to validate their existence or give them meaning. Your problems are not cosmic. They are local. They are object-specific. They are the particular way this particular object called you is experiencing withdrawal and relation and the basic structure of existence. And that's fine. That's enough. You don't need to be the center. You don't need to be special. You just need to be an object among objects. Harman's democracy means you can stop trying to justify your existence. Stop trying to prove that you matter. Stop trying to be significant in some universal sense. You matter the way the dust mite matters, the way the stone matters, the way the black hole matters, by existing, by withdrawing, by being an object with your own depths that no one else can access. And if that feels like demotion, like being knocked off some throne you thought you were sitting on, then maybe you need to be knocked off. Maybe the throne was the problem. Thinking that you're supposed to be the center is what's making you so tired and anxious and desperate for validation from other objects who are just as withdrawn and confused and alone as you are. The dust mite in your pillow is living its life right now, having its dust mite experience, doing its dust mite thing in withdrawn depths. It's not thinking about you. It's not worried about whether it matters. It's just being, existing, an object among objects in a democracy where everything counts the same. Maybe you could try that. Being without justifying, existing without needing cosmic significance, mattering in the quiet local way that objects matter. Not the center of anything, not the meaning maker, not the protagonist in some grand drama. Just here, like the hammer or the stone or the dust mite and the black hole and Beethoven's Ninth. Just an object withdrawn and real and strange, equal to everything else that is. Here is the problem. If objects withdraw from each other, if every entity hides its depths in some inaccessible core, then how does anything ever affect anything else? How does the fire burn the cotton if the fire and cotton never truly touch? How does your hand grip the hammer if the hammer's real being stays locked away from you? How does anything happen at all? This is the causation problem. And it is the basic question of how you manage to exist in relation to other things when relation seems impossible, when everything withdraws, when nothing can access anything else's depths. Harman's answer is vicarious causation. Objects don't touch directly, they can't. Their withdrawn cores remain separate, untouchable, but they interact anyway, through a mediating realm, through translated versions of themselves. Sensual proxies that stand in for the real objects that can't meet face to face. Think about texting. You're not meeting the person, you are meeting the text version of the person, the digital translation, the proxy self they've typed into their phone and sent across the network to arrive in your hand as words on a screen. The real person stays wherever they are, withdrawn, hidden, but the text arrives. The message lands, something happens, communication occurs, not between the real objects, but between the sensual stand-ins, the proxies, the translated surfaces. All causation works this way. The fire doesn't touch the real cotton. The cotton in itself withdraws, stays hidden. But the fire touches the sensual cotton, the cotton as it appears, the flammable surface that the cotton presents to the fire. The cotton burns. The fire does its work. Reality proceeds through vicarious interactions between surfaces while the depths stay dark and separate and alone. Your hand gripping the hammer withdraws, your hand withdraws, neither one fully present to the other, but the sensual hammer, the hammer as it appears to your hand, that meets the sensual hand, the hand as it appears to the hammer. And the grip happens, the swing happens, the nails get driven, not because the real objects touched, but because their proxies did. Now apply this to human relationships. You've never actually met anyone, not really. Not the withdrawn them, the them in itself, the real person with all their depths and qualities and strange interior reality. You have met the sensual version. The version that appears to you, the translated surface they present in relation to you. Every conversation is between proxies. Every touch is between stand-ins. Every kiss is between sensual versions while the real entities watch from withdrawn depths. You are not kissing the person, you're kissing your sensory impression of the person, the way they appear to you, the surface they give you, the proxy self that meets your proxy self in the mediating realm where relation becomes possible. This sounds sad. It sounds like you're always alone, always separated by unbridgeable ontological gaps. But maybe it is sad. Maybe loneliness is built into the structure of causation itself. Maybe every interaction is fundamentally vicarious, indirect, mediated by sensual stand-ins that can never give you the real thing. But maybe this is also why intimacy works at all. If objects could touch directly, if your withdrawn depths could meet someone else's withdrawn depths without mediation, what would happen? Would you merge? Would you lose the separation that makes you distinct objects? Would the boundary between you and them dissolve until neither of you existed anymore as individual entities? Vicarious causation preserves the gap, maintains the distance, lets objects stay separate while still affecting each other. The fire burns the cotton without becoming the cotton. Your hand grips the hammer without merging with the hammer. You love someone without dissolving into them. The relation happens, the causation occurs, but both objects remain withdrawn. Both objects keep their depths sealed and survive the encounter as distinct entities. This is why trying harder doesn't help, why more intimacy doesn't solve the distance, and why you can spend years with someone, decades, sharing a life and a bed and a history, and still feel like you're reaching across an impossible gap. Because you are. The gap is real. It is ontological. It is how causation works. You are not touching them. You are touching your sensory impression of them. The way they feel to you, the way they appear in your awareness, the translated version, the proxy, and they are touching their impression of you, their sensory version, the you as you appear to them. And somewhere in that double mediation, in that meeting of surfaces, something happens. Connection occurs. Relation becomes possible even though the real objects never meet. Every time you hold someone's hand, you're holding a proxy. Every time you look into someone's eyes, you're seeing a sensual version. Every time you think you're finally close, finally intimate, you are still in the mediating realm, still separated by the vicarious structure of all causation. The tragedy is that you can't overcome this. You can't work hard enough or love deep enough or try sincerely enough to bypass vicarious causation and touch the withdrawn real. The real stays withdrawn. That is what makes it an object instead of just an appearance. But the other side of the tragedy is that relation happens anyway, despite the withdrawal, despite the gap, the fact that everything is fundamentally separated from everything else by ontological distance. Causation occurs in the sensual realm while the real objects maintain their withdrawn depths. You are dancing with ghosts, with translated surfaces, and you always will be. That is not a problem to solve. It is not a flaw in reality. It is how causation works, how anything affects anything else. Through proxies, through mediation, through the vicarious meeting of surfaces while the depths stay separate and sealed and forever out of reach. The real entities watch from somewhere you will never see, and somehow reality keeps happening. Objects keep touching through their stand-ins, and love, impossible as it is, keeps occurring anyway. Harman says there's one way objects partially reveal their withdrawn depths, one moment when the thing in itself flickers into view, not fully, not completely, but enough to matter. Art, metaphor, the aesthetic encounter. When you read a poem that breaks you open, when you watch a film that makes you forget you're watching, when you hear music that stops being sound and becomes something else, something that reaches inside you and touches places you didn't know existed. Not like that. That's not just emotion. That's not just subjective response. That's the withdrawn reality of the artwork itself momentarily shining through the surface. Art is the technology of withdrawal revealing, the one reliable method for making the hidden partially visible, not through analysis, but through aesthetic experience, through the strange alchemy that happens when you encounter an artwork that actually works. Most things you interact with will stay stubbornly surface level. The hammer presents its tool being and nothing more. The coffee cup gives you containerness and keeps the rest hidden. You use them, you understand their function, but you never glimpse the depths. The withdrawn core stays locked away. But art doesn't work that way. Art refuses pure functionality. Art breaks the normal rules of object relations. When you stand in front of a painting that makes you weep, you are not using the painting. You're not extracting practical value from it. You're experiencing something else. The painting is using you to reveal itself. The artwork is making itself partially present in a way objects normally can't. Think about a song that destroyed you. That one song you heard at the right moment, the wrong moment, the moment when you were open enough or broken enough for it to land. You weren't listening to it as background noise. You weren't using it to fill silence. You were encountering it, the sound as object. The sound as withdrawn entity momentarily allowing you access to something usually hidden. The melody isn't just notes arranged in sequence. The lyrics aren't just words conveying meaning. Something else is happening. The song in itself, the real song with all its depths and qualities and strange object reality that's leaking through, becoming partially present, touching you in ways normal objects can't. Harman says metaphor works the same way. When you read a line like love is a burning house, something impossible happens. Love isn't a house. Houses aren't burning in any literal sense. But the metaphor connects two withdrawn objects, love and burning house, in a way that reveals something about both. Something you couldn't access through direct description, through literal language or normal relation. The metaphor creates a third thing, a sensual object that exists in the space between the two real objects. And in that third thing, in that impossible connection, the withdrawn depths of both objects flicker into partial visibility. You glimpse something, not everything, not the full reality, but enough. Enough to change how you understand what love is, what burning is, what it means for anything to be anything. This is why art matters. Not because it expresses human emotions, not because it makes you feel things, but because it is the only reliable method for partially overcoming withdrawal, for making objects reveal more than their surfaces, for touching depths that normally stay sealed. Every great artwork is performing the same magic, taking withdrawn reality and making it partially present. Not fully, never fully, but enough to remind you that there are depths, that surfaces aren't all there is, and that every object you encounter has hidden realities that you are not accessing in normal perception and use. Now flip this around. Why do you make art? Why do you write or paint or play music or create anything? Not to express yourself. That is the wrong answer. That's a narcissistic response. The answer that puts human consciousness back at the center. You make art to escape your own withdrawal, to become partially visible, even to yourself. You are an object withdrawing from yourself, just like you withdraw from everything else. The you in itself stays hidden even from your own awareness. You can't access your depths any more than anyone else can. But when you make something, when you create an artwork that actually works, something happens. You become partially present in the work, not fully, not transparently, but the artwork carries something of your withdrawn reality into the world, makes it partially accessible, partially visible. The poem you write isn't you, it's a proxy, a translated surface, but it's closer to your withdrawn depths than anything else you do. The painting, the song, the story, they are attempts to touch yourself, to make contact with the you that stays hidden even from you, to overcome the gap between the you that experiences and the you that is experienced. And it always partially fails, because withdrawal is absolute. Real objects can't fully present themselves. The artwork is another object separate from you with its own withdrawn reality that you can't control or fully access once it exists. But partial failure is still partial success. The artwork carries something, reveals something, makes the hidden partially visible. And that's as close as objects get to overcoming the loneliness of withdrawal. That's as close as you get to being known. Not through confession or honesty or trying to explain yourself in clear, literal language, but through metaphor, through aesthetic encounter, through making something that works the way art works, by connecting withdrawn realities in impossible ways that create third things that reveal what can't normally be revealed. Every creative act is an attempt to touch your own depths, to make yourself partially present, to overcome withdrawal enough to matter, to be seen, to be known. Even though knowing is impossible and presence is always partial, you make art because you're an object among objects, withdrawn and hidden and fundamentally alone, and art is the only technology that makes withdrawn objects partially visible. The painting on your wall right now, the song in your headphones, the poem you memorized in college and never forgot, they are not just cultural artifacts. They are objects revealing themselves, allowing you glimpses of withdrawn depths, performing the impossible magic of making the hidden partially present. And when you create, when you make something that actually works, you are doing the same thing, revealing yourself partially, briefly, in the only way that objects can, through the aesthetic encounter, through metaphor, through art. You wake up in a bed that has its own withdrawn reality. The mattress beneath you is experience something you will never know. Not consciousness, not my ass, or not thought, my ass, but something. The mattress is being a mattress in ways that have nothing to do with supporting your weight or giving you a place to sleep. You walk to the kitchen. The floor under your feet withdraws. The door you open withdraws. The light switch you flip withdraws. Every object you touch is touching you back through proxies while its real being stays hidden, locked away in ontological depths that your presence doesn't penetrate. You drink coffee from a cup, experiencing something you'll never comprehend. You sit in a chair that's having its own chair reality, independent of your sitting. You look at your phone, and the phone looks back with its own withdrawn being that has nothing to do with notifications or messages, or the digital tether connecting you to people who are also withdrawn objects pretending to be knowable. This is your life. This is everyone's life. Moving through a world populated by billions of entities, human and non-human, all of them hiding their depths from you. All of them fundamentally inaccessible, strangers in the deepest possible sense. The question is, how do you live with this? How do you function knowing that every relation is partial, every connection is surface level, every understanding is incomplete? How do you love knowing you're loving a proxy, a sensual version, a translated surface while the real person stays locked away in depths you'll never reach? Most people don't think about it, let's be honest. They move through life assuming transparency, assuming that what they see is what they get, that the surface is the depth, that knowing someone's name and history and habits means knowing them. They are wrong. But the wrongness doesn't hurt them because they don't notice it. But you notice it now, I'm sorry. You can't unknow what Harman has shown you. You can't unsee this. You can't go back to naive realism, to thinking that objects are just what they appear to be, to believing that intimacy means accessing someone's depths. You know better now. You know the gap is real, that the loneliness is ontological. So how do you live with it? First answer, you stop trying to penetrate everything. God, there's a joke there, isn't there? You stop demanding transparency. You stop believing that understanding something means accessing its withdrawn core. The hammer doesn't owe you its depths. The coffee cup doesn't owe you its inner reality. And the people in your life don't owe you total access to their withdrawn being. You can't have it anyway, even if they wanted to give it to you. Because they don't have access to their own depths either. They're withdrawn from themselves the same way that they're withdrawn from you. Nobody's hiding anything deliberately. Withdrawal isn't a choice, it's the structure of being an object. Second answer, you love the surfaces. You stop treating surfaces like failures, like poor substitutes for the depths you really want. The surface is all there is. It's where relation happens. The sensual realm where proxies meet and causation occurs and love becomes possible despite the ontological gap. When you hold someone's hand, you are holding their sensual hand, the hand as it appears to you, the translated version. That is not a tragedy. That is how hands work. and how objects touch through mediated surfaces while the depth stays separate. The surface isn't lying to you, it is the only truth available and the only connection possible. Third answer, you respect the mystery. Respect my mystery. You treat every object, human or otherwise, as something worthy of regard precisely because it won't give itself fully to you. The hammer's withdrawn depths, the stone's hidden core, your lover's inaccessible interior. Oh my God, what have I done? These aren't problems to solve. They are features to appreciate, realities to honor. You are surrounded by mysteries, not mysteries you could solve with more data or better analysis or deeper intimacy. Mysteries that are constitutive of reality itself. The world is not legible. It is not here for you to understand. It is not a text waiting to be read or a puzzle waiting to be solved. It is a parliament of withdrawn objects all doing their own thing in depths that remain forever dark to each other. Maybe that's better than transparency. Because if everything were fully knowable, if all depths were accessible, then what would you have? A universe of pure surface, pure relation, pure function. Nothing hidden, nothing mysterious, nothing that exceeds your grasp. Sounds like death. Sounds like the end of reality. Because reality is withdrawal. Reality is depths that stay dark. Objects maintaining their cores even while relating to each other through sensual proxies. You're lonely because you're real, because you withdraw, because your depths stay sealed even from yourself. And everyone else is lonely for the same reason. All of you reaching across gaps you can't close, touching through surfaces while the real entities watch from elsewhere. But the reaching matters, even if it's partial, even if it's mediated. The fire burns the cotton, your hand grips the hammer. You love someone, causation occurs, relation happens. Reality proceeds through vicarious interactions between surfaces. The hammer in the toolbox, the cup in the cabinet, the person lying next to you, they are all strangers, all fundamentally unknowable. And that's not loneliness, that's company, that's the democracy of objects. All of you equally real, equally hidden, and equally strange. You don't need to know them. You don't need to understand their depths, to overcome withdrawal or close the gap or achieve some impossible intimacy where objects merge and boundaries dissolve. You just need to be here, among them, another object in the parliament, another withdrawn entity reaching across the void. The cup on your desk right now is having its best cup life. The chair holding you is being a chair in depths you'll never understand, and you're being you in depths even you can't see. All of you hidden and all of you real. That is all there is. That is all there's ever been. Objects withdrawn and strange, forever beyond each other's grasp. And somehow in all that separation, all that hiddenness, in all that mutual withdrawal, reality keeps happening. We keep reaching. We keep living among strangers who feel like home. Return to the hammer, sitting in the toolbox in the garage in the dark. Being whatever it is when no one's looking, when no hand is gripping it, when no nail needs driving. The hammer in its withdrawn reality is object life. You'll never know what it is. Neither will I, neither would Graham Harman, neither would anyone. That is not a failure of philosophy. That's not a gap in knowledge we could close with better theories or sharper analysis. That is reality. That is what it means for something to be real, to exist. To be an object rather than just an appearance. The hammer withdraws and so does everything else. The stone, the atom, your coffee cup, your mother, yourself. All of you hiding in plain sight. All of you locked inside depths that remain forever dark to each other. This changes how you see the world, how you move through it. Every object around you right now isn't just a thing, isn't just a tool or prop or piece of furniture. It's an entity with withdrawn depths, a reality that exceeds any function or relation, a being in itself that stays hidden while presenting surfaces for you to touch. Your phone isn't just a device, it's an object withdrawing from you. Your coffee cup isn't just a receptacle, it's a thing in itself hiding its core. And the people in your life aren't supporting characters in your story. They're not here to be understood or known or fully grasped. They're objects as strange and withdrawn as you are, all of you brushing against each other's surfaces while your depths stay dark. Loneliness isn't a bug, it's a feature. The unbridgeable gap between objects is what makes relation possible at all. If you could fully know someone, fully access their depths, merge with their withdrawn core, what would be left? Where would they end and you begin? Would either of you still exist as distinct objects? The gap preserves you. The withdrawal keeps you real. The distance makes touching matter. We reach for each other across the void because we're all fundamentally alone. Every object maintains its depths while offering its surfaces. Relation happens through proxies and mediation and vicarious causation between entities that never fully meet. And sometimes, briefly, the surfaces touch, the hand grips the hammer, the fire burns the cotton. You hold someone in the dark and for a moment the proxies align and connection occurs and something happens that feels like knowing, even though knowing is impossible. Because that is all there is. The hammer dreams of nails. You dream of being understood. The universe dreams of nothing. And reality happens anyway. Objects touching through surfaces. Depths staying dark. All of us withdrawn and strange and real. All of us here, among strangers, forever. Thank you, you beautiful lot, for joining me today. If this episode made you see your coffee cup differently, made you feel the weight of objects around you, made the loneliness feel less like failure and more like structure, then I'm hoping I did what I came here to do. If you want to keep wandering through this weirdness with me, you can follow the show on all the usual places. We are on Instagram, TikTok and X with the handle @TheObservingEye. We are on YouTube at youtube.com/@TheObservingEye. And we are on Substack at theobservingeye.com. You can follow us wherever you like your existential crises delivered. And if you found something in this episode that stayed with you, then let me know what you think. Drop us a comment or, drop me an email, which you can do. It's david@theobservingeye.com. You can email me on that address, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you for listening. Your time, your presence, and your attention are, as always, greatly appreciated. And I think, one last bit of housekeeping, there's going to be one more episode before Christmas now, and I'm having a break. So just giving you some warning. Next week will be the last one of 2025. Take care, everybody. Much love, and I'll catch you soon.